doing today? That's not good.
Smile.
What's up, beautiful? Have a good day. Hey, what's up, girl? How you doing? Somebody's acknowledging you for being beautiful. She said thank you.
Oh, bless you.
Hey, baby.
I know her. I have touched her, traced the curve of her waist, memorized the swell of her chest, the shape of her hips. I have held her, claimed her, and for those moments, I feel I have known her entirely. I know that is all there is to her. If I have touched her, I have understood her. If I have claimed her, I have conquered her. She shivers, and I call it desire. She breathes, and I call it invitation. She smiles, and I call it approval. I see her pauses and think it's hesitation, not fear. I see her flinch, and I call it shyness, not pain. I feel the curve of her waist in my hands and imagine I feel her whole. Yet I cannot hear the storm behind her eyes. I never saw the mornings she woke wanting nothing but quiet, yet already bracing for me. I never noticed how her skin prickled when a hand lingered too long, how her breath shortened at familiar footsteps. I knew claiming her body meant understanding her soul, when all I understood was my own reflection in her pain. I am right. I am entitled. I am necessary. I am clever enough to convince myself that knowing her body is knowing her soul. I am convinced that desire is comprehension, that pleasure is insight. He would call her resistance coyness. He would call her refusal weakness. He would call her caution shyness. He would never understand. She is not for him to know. I do not notice the mornings she wakes beneath blankets that offer no comfort. I do not notice the ledger of storms she carries silently, hands that linger, eyes that measure, words that bruise, touches that push past silence. Men who leave when she refuses. I do not notice her rage, her exhaustion, her survival. I see her skin. I see her curves. I see what I want. I think that is all I need. I think that is all she has to offer. Yet still, I do not see her. You think you know her because her body answered when you touched it, because her curves were yours to remember, because your satisfaction feels like nothing. You don't. Not the way she wakes already bracing herself, not knowing who will demand something from her today. Not the streets where she walks with her shoulders slightly folded inward, calculating distance, exits, witnesses. Not the bus where a body presses too close and stays there, where she freezes because moving might make it worse. Somewhere he imagines her trembling is consent. Somewhere he imagines he is justified. Not the taxi where a voice comments on her legs like an observation, and she learns to stare out of the window as if glass can protect her. Not the market where eyes follow her longer than hands ever should. Not the office where her ideas vanish, only to return louder and celebrated in a man's voice. Not the hands that brush her shoulder and do not apologize. Not the laughter that follows when she stiffens. Not the men who disappear the moment she refuses to be useful to their desire. He calls it flirtation. He calls it harmless. He calls her reaction excessive. He calls her boundaries an insult. You saw her body. You did not see the record she carries inside it. You did not see how her spine tightens before a word leaves someone's mouth. You did not hear how her breathing changes when a man stands too close and does not move. You did not feel how often she must decide between safety and dignity. You did not notice the tremor that ran through her when attention turned invasive, claiming space she never offered. You did not see the small deaths she endured every time a man's compliment was about being hot. You did not hear her whisper, "Not again," to herself, as yet another hand brushed her arm without consent. You did not notice the quiet tally of humiliation, fear, and restraint she carried like stones in her chest. Somewhere in her head, his voice still exists. You're reading too much into it. I was just being friendly. Relax. You're imagining things. It's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. You smiled last time. Don't pretend you didn't want it. Why are you overreacting? I'm just complimenting you. Why do you make it into something else? You're too serious. Lighten up. Everyone flirts. Don't act like it's a crime. Relax. I wasn't hurting you. I don't know why you're so tense. You're reading too much into my touch. Other women like this. Why can't you? It's not a big deal. Stop acting like it's violence. You're too emotional. You're making this awkward for everyone. No one else would say no. You will be fine if you just play along. He lingers. He dismisses. He rewrites her reality. She wakes. Her body remembers yesterday before her mind does. She dresses carefully, not for beauty, but to minimize attention. Too tight invites commentary. Too loose invites questions. She adjusts herself the way people adjust furniture in tight spaces. Outside, the day is already loud. On the bus, someone presses in and does not move away, He becomes still. Stillness is safer than resistance. Somewhere he imagines her compliance is consent. In the market, a man watches her too closely. She pretends to compare prices she doesn't need. She waits for him to lose interest. The shopkeeper smiles at her, his gaze lingering, expecting gratitude for a compliment she did not ask for. She nods silently, biting her lip. At work, her idea arrives fragile, half-formed. Someone interrupts. The room listens, just not to her. Later, she hears her own thought repeated back to her, louder, and everyone nods. A comment lands on her body instead of her work. She smiles without teeth. Smiling keeps the day moving. A colleague stands too close. She steps aside. He notices. He does not apologize. Then, quiet. Not relief, just a strange numbness. A moment where she feels almost hollow, like the day is happening to someone else. This is the part no one sees. This is where survival goes to rest for a minute. Evening comes. Home asks questions. Did you cook? Did you call? Why are you quiet? Why are you tense? Why are you always tired? He comes home, steps inside, claiming she is his. Her body bends to the expectation of his touch. Her mind shrinks to fit his desire. She gives what he wants. Quiet compliance. A body for pleasure. He falls asleep immediately after, leaving her awake in the ache of being needed but unseen. Her eyes close later, not from relief, but exhaustion. Wondering if this is what love looks like. She has no language left that won't be misunderstood. She sometimes imagines disappearing completely, melting into walls, so no one ever touches or judges her again. She counts the tiny betrayals, a joke at her expense, a lingering gaze, a hand that brushed too close. She wonders if anyone will ever see her fight, her suffering, the way she bends but never breaks in public. And she knows she will wake tomorrow and carry it all again, alone, as if invisibility is a superpower. She navigates family expectations, public entitlement, private fear, the constant reminder that her body is never entirely hers. He says he loves her. He says it softly, tenderly, but all he shows is hands that linger, words that measure, touches that reduce her to skin. Love is not his gift. It is a performance measured in moans, in the curve of her back, in whether she is willing. When she hesitates, he calls it rejection, not respect. When she asks for space, he calls it coldness, not boundaries. She begins to wonder if love is only the permission to touch. All in one day, she survives it. Her body remembers every touch she did not invite, from the office, from the streets, from him again.
If I speak, they will say I'm difficult. If I refuse, they will say I'm ungrateful. If I react, they will say I imagine.
Quiet!
Anything louder becomes her fault. Her hands ache from holding herself in place. Her jaw hurts from staying calm. Her thoughts circle the same moments, rewriting them, wondering what she could have done differently. Sometimes she blames herself. Sometimes she wishes she were invisible. Sometimes she wonders if being desired is same as being respected. Sometimes she cries in a corner for no one to see. Sometimes she clenches her fist and wishes she could vanish. Sometimes she thinks maybe surviving isn't enough. Sometimes she hears his voice again, confident, amused, certain. You're overthinking. I was just joking. Why are you so serious? He lingers in her mind, uninvited, rewriting reality. She wonders if she is broken, or if the world is simply built to crush her at every corner. She imagines her anger spilling out, raw and loud. But she swallows it. Because survival always tastes bitter. She blames herself for noticing, for feeling, for daring to exist in spaces built to erase her. And in the hollow of her chest, she hears the quiet echo. Desire is not respect, and approval is not safety. She wonders how many women are carrying the same weight tonight, each believing they are alone in it. Her back aches from being alert for too long. Her shoulders stay lifted even when she is alone. Her hands remember every touch she did not invite. Her feet throb from standing where she did not want to stand. Her chest tightens without warning. Her mouth tastes like words she swallowed to stay safe. Sometimes she wishes she could step out of her own skin, the way people step out of crowded rooms just to feel untouched for a moment. Every space she enters asks something of her. Every step is a calculation. He would call her vigilance paranoia. He would call her fear irrational. He would call himself harmless. He would never see what he left behind. She sits on the edge of the bed. Her chest heaves. One tear slips. Another. She tries to blink them away, she cannot. For one heartbeat, the universe sees her break, and she is furious at herself for letting it happen. She lies in the darkness, no witness, no explanations required. She counts what cannot be counted, the hands avoided, the words swallowed, the moment she barely made it home. And still, she carries it. And still, she survives. And still, no one notices the weight she bears. Her body is the vessel everyone admires. Her mind is the battlefield everyone ignores. Her soul is the archive of every tiny dismissal she has endured. Do you see that? No, of course you don't. Because it is easier to notice skin than silence, easier to desire than to understand, easier to believe a woman is simple than to accept she has carried a universe you were never willing to enter. You will never know the storms she endured today. You will never feel the weight of the eyes, the touches, the demands, the violations. You saw her body. You never saw her. And tomorrow she will wake and carry it all again.